All right, you guys should be able to hear me. Let me make check. Let me make sure. Let me check. Yep, mic check, all that good stuff. Okay, you guys should hear me. We are just working not too hard today on system stuff, and we've been watching the cluster, and we got to decide kind of some of the stuff we want to do with. Got to decide some of the stuff we might want to do with the lab for this week. So. What I have in the background is we could talk a little bit about the reviews still from some of the different units. I also have some stuff just spinning in the background here. I've got Ranger Cam, and I've just got different topics. I even got the election stuff up because I'm sure some people care about that. So I'll pop that up and we'll let that refresh every now and then. In fact, actually, if you've never used this tool, you can come in here and you can do options, and you can say, okay, that one browser, every time it comes up, give it a reload. So then you can save that and it'll actually reload it. So, you know, in case anybody's interested in that kind of stuff as we're kind of sitting here. So let me drop that down there. Good. All right. But because we don't hang out and do too much political stuff, we're just going to hang out and work on the systems a little bit. We need to figure out a few things about this system here that I haven't checked on in a while. TVS, VGS, LVS. All right, so we don't have any additional space because the disk that we've given it extra, we've used everything up on it. So that's fine. That's not that big of a deal. We've got additional space in the lab if we need it. Just want to make sure everybody's kind of good stewards of the space. I'm not going to put any quotas on the space, but what I should probably do is... I may want to make a new partition for that space. So this device here, if you haven't been around, Export FS. We've got labs, and if we just grab labs from Etsy exports, that's being exported as read-only. But lab work, so lab work, that one is. It's its own. It's in the same directory. So df-h on lab work will show that it's in the same directory. So what I really should do to kind of protect the cluster and just the system in general is that one directory that people have access to. Well, really, I guess I should do it to all of them. I should give them their own file system, so if anybody fills them up, they don't crash the rest of the server. We're probably going to be fine. I don't think anybody's going to do anything too wild in the server, so I guess we can leave it for now and just kind of see how it goes as we do any of our pieces. But we were doing this earlier, so let's get this out of the way. And we can work on really whatever we want. We can start doing. Actually, we could start with this. So Linux Systems Administration Unit 5, this is from last month. And I wanted to kind of just cover some of the topics again so that everybody feels kind of comfortable about them. Let me also pull up our Discord and throw our Discord over here in case anybody wants to go hang out in there. And I'll show you guys some of this project stuff. So the Unit 5 is right here. And we'll go look at what the questions are here when we get to that section. So, all right. Cuddlingus, Evening Het, wanted to give a shout out and advice with new role. Thanks for everything you and the Discord do. Nice. Yeah, that's the goal, is make this stuff, make it a little easier road for the next people after us. Het, can you give us a basic rule of thumb regarding the number of domain controllers that are needed? I don't know any. I don't really do much with domain controllers. If you're talking about if you're talking on the Windows side of things, I don't really have a good rule of thumb for any of that stuff. I think you'll. I know what I used to do with domain controllers back in the day, but my advice would be almost 20 years old if I were to try to give any DC knowledge. My advice tended to be at least one local domain controller for each environment, so that if anything were to go down, that we would do that. Yeah, and then primary and secondary domain control. One other thing I remember about domain controllers is they should always have the ability to be powered down, like quiesce them down. I remember that, because if you ever have a domain controller crash, you might not get it back up. So that's a problem. Active Directory can be kind of finicky like that. So I do remember that, but. Yeah, so I used to put one in each of my different when I had 36 different WAN sites for the school district, I would have one at each different site. So, okay. So here was our announcements for Unit 5. We were up to 190 people at that point. Actually, a little miffed. We got up to 208 people, and then in our Discord, the event actually got wiped somehow. If you go up to here and you actually look at the events, you would see we're back up to 23 people saying they're coming. So something wiped it and put it all the way down to 0. So nobody actually came last Saturday, which is fine. We had a special guest speaker when I was out of town to come talk to you guys. But coming up on the 9th, we'll have our next meeting. So that's a Saturday, and it'll be at 3 p.m. So if you're in Discord, you should check your time, because your time will probably be different than my time. So, but it'll show it in your time. So that's something to think about. Also, I'm not grading any of the assignments right now. I'm just saying go ahead and keep them until the end. And then people that make it all the way to the end and want to turn it in can. So. Okay, so 5 we talked about last week. The week before, we had done an operations bridge. And people that wanted to looked at what are the activities of an operations bridge? What do they try to do? What function do they have in an organization to try to handle incidents and those type of things? And then I say your team has no documentation around how to check out a server during an incident, so write a procedure of what you think an operations person should be doing on a system that they suspect is not working properly. So that was all Unit 4 stuff. For Unit 5, we went in and looked at the attack.miter.org page. So we'll look at that. And then I said find a blog or an article on the web that discusses the user environment. So we talked about user environments a little bit. So let me plop that up real quick here. So Unit 5, the first one was go and click on attack.miter.org. If you've never been here before, what it shows is through reconnaissance. So reconnaissance all the way through. Whoops. Come over here, all the way over to your impact. So all the way to where they pull data out, exfiltrate data from your system and all that stuff. Hey, Robodom, how's it going? Oh, I need to go to my multi-stream so I see chats on both sides. Well, actually, that's fine because I actually have the chat up over here for YouTube now that I look at it. So if anybody's talking on YouTube, I'll see you guys talking. Twitch, I got you guys over here, and then I got just Twitch down here, so that's fine. There's Ranger. Look at him laying down there. He's just laying around. But anyway, so we go to attack.miter.org, and I say, what terms or concepts are new to you? So, yeah, Kano, I voted. Yep. I always vote. I'm in Arizona, but I always vote. So, I will show you guys. Hold on. Back to that attack.miter. Where'd it go? Right here. So, you look through this, and you go, okay, I've never heard of content injection. I don't know what that is. I don't know what data encoding is, or data obfuscation, or dynamic resolution. I don't know what any of these are. So I go start reading about them, and I start to figure out a little bit of this stuff. I've never heard about group policy discovery, and what is the techniques for group policy discovery. And they actually come in here and they tell you some of the exploits that have been done over the years and the methodologies that were used for people to scan and do that stuff. Yeah. Well, I mean, Arizona, I can't talk about it, but so over here, resource development, phishing and hardware additions and all these things. There's all this stuff that you guys can study about, right, and learn about. Credentialed access, discovery, lateral movement. How do we move up and then move over? And lateral movement within an organization that's trusted to your organization is how, like, the big Kmart compromises and like Sony compromises tend to actually, they get compromised by one of their trusted partners, get compromised, and people laterally move into the environment. And once you understand those techniques, you can start to talk about how you're going to defend against those techniques, right? If you don't even know to watch for them, how are you even going to know to watch for them? If you assume all traffic from your partner is legitimate, your trusted partner is legitimate, then that's going to be fine. But if you start to move to like a zero trust model and certain types of traffic don't look right anymore, certain types of password spray and scanning of your systems from their devices, they know who they're supposed to talk to on their trusted links. So they shouldn't be talking to other things. And there's all kinds of ways to lock that down at all kinds of different layers. One of them that's very common is zero trust, where we only let things talk to other things based on certificates that we give, right? But anyway, so I wanted you guys to look at this and then come over here in a systems world and say, okay, what even though we're systems admins and we're not directly in security, why do you think we care about our systems being attacked? Why do we think it isn't somebody else's problem to think about that? Well, I'm going to tell you something right here that might be a secret to some of you. This isn't a secret to anybody that's ever worked Linux, but it's probably a secret to some of you and a mystery. Your security people don't know shit for Linux either. So, hold on real quick, wifey. Hold on real quick. Yeah, come on in. Sorry, the wife wanted to come in, so I'm letting her come in, and then we're going to be sitting here on the not working too hard screen. So, there we go. So the wife's in here. If you guys want to ask her any questions, she's just sitting behind me on the little beanbag. See, wifey, we got the little double penguins up. So now the wife's in. People are saying hello, and we're just looking at. So where are we at, guys? We were looking at. Oh, sorry, that jumped to somewhere else. And down here. What impact to the organization is data exfiltration? If you've never even heard of the term data exfiltration or data protections, think about this. Think about this for a second. If you don't even know that I could just walk up and bonk you on the top of the head, how could you ever protect it? Does that kind of make sense? Like, how could you? Oh, they said, I hope you had fun in Hawaii, wifey.
I loved it.
She loved it. But how would you even know to protect your head if you didn't know that I could bonk you on the top of the head, right? And the reason I say that is to be a little silly, but also to say, if you didn't even know what data exfiltration was, you wouldn't know that that's how people get data out of your system. And if you didn't know that data exfiltration was something that you could stop and try to keep from happening, you wouldn't maybe understand the importance of data labeling. Once we start to label data and we understand how data should be accessed, it makes the protection of the data and keeping the data from exfiltrating our system much more, I don't even want to say much easier, it's just much more tenable. Like, you have no defense if you don't know what the thing is. Does that kind of make sense? So I try to tell you guys all the time, like, you've got to understand the concepts of the thing before you can even start to try to defend against it. All right? So anyways, I say here, even if you're not the data owner or a data custodian, those are technical terms in the security world, why is it important to understand the data on your systems? If you're root on a system, I hope you guys understand the absolute authority that the root user has. You could delete and just take servers offline. You could take the company offline. You could make a mistake, malicious or on purpose, and just take the company down. So you have a lot of responsibility when you're the root user on a system. So that's kind of really important. And then people came in here, and again, we're seeing a sharp drop off. We only have 24 messages in there, which leads me to believe only probably 12 people are still participating, right? But then people started talking about what is data exfiltration and how does that affect you in the system. And people were, open about what the different types of attack methodologies and persistence that people do, right? Those kind of things. All right. And then the second question was, find a blog or an article on the web that discusses the user Linux environment. You may want to search for .bashrc or .environment files. And I said, what type of customizations might you set up for your environment? Maybe you've never set up a Linux environment before. Maybe you've heard me say that I like to do everything very vanilla, so I just go with whatever the environment gives me. But maybe you look at it and you go, well, that's okay. But I really, really kind of hate typing ls-l, so maybe I'll just do ll instead. And that's a common alias. But if that wasn't an alias in your environment, how would you find it? So if I come here and I go look at this and I say, well, what are my aliases, right? Well, here's all my aliases on the system. But I didn't know that these were all my aliases. Look at all those grep aliases. Man, that's a lot of them. I can't even believe how many of those different types of greps there are. That's funny. But anyways, here's my aliases. And if I wanted to know how these aliases were set, I can go look for them. So I might grep from anything in roots, like anything in root here. And it's all in bash history. Maybe we grep-v bash history, but maybe I see, okay, maybe it's not in here. Maybe it's actually set over in, maybe I grep from, or I'll grep from etc bash dot, where is that? Bash RC, there it is right there, yeah. So there's actually this, I don't see it in there. And then what's under bash completion? What's in there? I don't see anything in there either. But it could also be in profiles. So etc profile .d in here, if we grep alias from everywhere, we might find where, here's a bunch of where my aliases come from in my system. Do you guys see this? So if I wanted to not have these aliases execute for my user, if I wanted to remove them, I could do that, right? I could remove them after, or if I'm the root user, I can go and change things here in the etc profile.d so they don't execute. There's a lot of things I can do, but I can find very quickly where my aliases are coming from in my environment. I've literally never seen this command before. xzgrep, I don't even know what that is. But look at this is where it's all set. So if I wanted to get that out of my environment, I could pull that out of there. Because everything in this directory right here is assigned to the user when the user boots up. It's what we call sourced, right? It's like dot gawk, right? Or dot gawk like this. And then that would get run in the environment. But CSH doesn't work, so we'd probably skip that one. I would probably do like, let's try Flatpak or something. And then this would source Flatpak, and if there are environmental variables that I needed or whatever, they would be set out of there. We can more that. Look, I have no idea what Flatpak did, but we can go and take it apart. We can say if command-v Flatpak, so if that command is there, then do something, right? And let's just do which Flatpak, right? So bin Flatpak is there, so we could say, yeah, they're looking for if it's there, right? Then do some things. And I have no idea what this tool does. We'd probably read a man on it if it's there. Never even heard of it before. Build, install, and run applications in runtime. Okay, well, that's fun. Never used it before, but it's some tool that's out there. Some tool that's used to build some type of thing, right? Flatpak builder, never heard of that. Never heard of any of that stuff. No idea, right? So anyways, there's all these things that we can kind of do to look at the system and figure out what's going on in our environment. And we can remove those aliases if they bug us, or those things that are being run, we can take them out of there. What problem can you anticipate around helping users with their dot files? Well, I can tell you right now, if you have users that muck around with their dot files, which a lot of programmers and software engineers like to do, your number one problem you're probably going to experience from them is going to be probably resetting their dot files back to basics so that they can go and mess them up again. You will find users that will shoot themselves in the foot so bad that they can no longer log into the system because of their dot files. And you might say, yeah, because of their dot files? Yes, because of their dot files. They can do stuff so bad to their own system that they can't even connect anymore. Hold on real quick. Wifey, are you listening to something?
Yeah.
What are you listening to?
Instagram Reels.
Instagram Reels.
Yes.
Do you want to tell them about your favorite part of the trip? You gotta speak up.
Sea turtles.
Sea turtles? She got to see sea turtles by the seashore. What about the birds that wanted my cookie?
You loved those.
I didn't tell them about the birds that wanted my cookie. Guys, I had a following of about 50 birds around me, and I was eating an ice cream cookie, and I was like trying to flick part of it off to give to one of the birds, well, like the group that were under me, and one of the birds got impatient and flew up to my hand and was flapping its wings like pretending to be a hummingbird, and it actually grabbed the piece I was flicking off of the cookie and took it from me. And I was like, that's pretty funny, bird. So that's what that bird did. So yeah, it was good times. Good times up there. Yeah, Subaki, yeah, this is my third time today, technically. I broke earlier for, I had a meeting, and I figured I'd just hop off instead of talking during the meeting. And then I did some work, and then I hopped back on a little later and did some more work. You guys saw me doing all my college stuff, although I didn't show you any of my college stuff. But yeah, we're hanging out. We're not working too hard. I got the wife in the room here with me, so she can tell you guys stories. She didn't tell much of a story. She just said sea turtles. But we had a good time. We sat by the beach the last night we were there too. That was kind of nice. Remember that?
What?
We sat by the beach the last night we were there.
Yes.
Although it was almost getting cold for me.
And very windy.
It was very windy. Yes, it's been very windy in Phoenix since we got back too. In fact, I think today only got to 70 degrees, which is quite cool. And my AC didn't even kick on during the day, so that's kind of nice. Very nice, in fact, because with my solar, I'll start actually getting credits back from from the company, and then they have to send us a check at the end of the year for any amount that's under. So that's kind of nice. We got that going for us. All right. I'm leaning back in my chair. I'm not working too hard, guys. What do I need to do, though? What do I need to do? I definitely need to keep working on this environment here. So let me keep showing you guys this. So we did this in Unit 5, and then we talked about taking notes and reviewing material for the week, and then we talked about getting in the lab environment and understanding Linux. And then I told you guys to keep working on your projects, so that's all important. And then what did we do? We got into users and groups, and then scanning and enumerating systems. So that was some of the basic security type stuff around users and putting new groups and users into a system. And then we had how you enumerate systems. That's part of the early stages of figuring out what's going on. And I think I told you guys this before. When I was the red team lead for a big insurance company in the U.S., when I took it over, I said, "Okay, guys, what's our footprint? Like, what are all the things we have?" And nobody knew. Not just like nobody on my team knew. Nobody in the company knew. I like went around and asked like some of the app security managers and some of the other people, and they could give me their part from like what they thought they knew about their system. But nobody like really knew kind of what was what the whole footprint of our system was, like all of the web domains that we had and all of the stuff that we had exposed on all the IPs. Nobody knew that. Up in the cloud, down in our different, we had 2 data facilities. Nobody knew. Isn't that kind of crazy? I mean, if you think about it, like how are you going to protect anything if you don't even know the scope of it? Like if I told you, you know, I always use this example of RoboCop. He might be the best cop in town up when he's in Detroit, but then when he drops down to like Las Vegas, he doesn't know where all the streets are. You don't even tell him where the edges of Las Vegas are. You just tell him defend this desert. Then you find him a week later just upside down in the sand somewhere because he didn't even know where he could or couldn't go, right? So my point is, sometimes we have to do this stuff for ourselves. This isn't always like a network scan and a targeted scan. They are not always malicious. They are sometimes things that we do internal to our system to figure out what's going on. I gave the example of, you know, your manager is very happy that he finally hired a Linux engineer or Linux admin, and he just pats you on the shoulder and goes, it's your system now. And you're like, well, do we have a document? Do we have a diagram or anything? And he goes, oh, you, and he just pats you on the back and walks out. Because they don't have any of that stuff. I wouldn't say most companies, but a good number of companies don't even know what they have. And things are probably too compartmentalized for them to even ask each other sometimes. So it's wild that you may have to take it on yourself to scan and find your own systems, right? I talked about writing a report about data. How do we write reports? What does it look like to output data in different formats? What does it mean to have, and I asked you guys to do this a few different ways and make it look nice. System names and IPs. What are the open ports and services? What is the system type if you can determine it? And then you guys were crawling around in the lab. I actually gave you guys a task of looking at these servers. So I have these servers in my environment, the blue nodes and the red nodes. And I had you guys scan those nodes based on their IP addresses. Do these things have 2 networks to them? Huh. It's actually interesting to me. Hold on, I gotta go look now because they had some weird network stuff going on with them. Hold on. Let's go over here. Grep for node from Etsy hosts and blue node red. Okay, so they're in the. Really? They are in that network. All right. I thought for some reason that they were in the other network. Oh yeah, they are in the right network. Okay, so they're over in my alternate network. This is my other network here in my environment. This is the lab network. So you guys were scanning all these, and what was happening was people were finding a lot of the stuff, but people weren't finding all this stuff. In fact, there was one port for sure. Let's go look a couple things. System CTL status status UFW. Is that on? Ah, it is on in our environment. Oh, that's interesting. Ooh, maybe that's why people weren't. It's probably why people weren't seeing everything now that I think about it. SS-NTULP, and we can see that some of these different ports are open. They should see 9100, they should see 9080, because that's Promtail and Node Exporter, and then they should see Apache on this one. And then one of these other nodes, Red 3, I remember that I put, let's just do that. And I'm pretty sure on this one I put MariaDB, so this one's a MySQL server. But now that I think about it, that's actually kind of funny. I should... I wonder if that's... Oh, maybe I don't have MySQL on here. Maybe I do have MySQL. Let's see. I have a feeling... I might have lied to some people during this lab. That's kind of funny. Or I might have said, oh, you missed something, but maybe they didn't miss something. Oh, yeah. Firewall. So the firewall's on. Okay, it's inactive. Okay. So it's not blocking anything. No, so people did legitimately miss this one. So we're looking for 3306 right there. So, yeah, so people did legitimately miss this one when they were scanning. I didn't see... Well, from the first ones that I saw from people, I didn't see anybody get this one right. But hold on. Ah, that may be why. It may be because... So in Maria... Where's he at? Should be my.cnf, right? This is where you actually go in here. It's very possible. So here's the conf.d and the MariaDB conf.d. So let's go in there. Let's go look at the 50 server. And, oh yeah, okay, the bind address is the only one that's going to listen to. Yeah, that's kind of my fault too. So that might have been, I might have lied to some people on that one. But yeah, that one, this is, yeah, I can tune that. I can turn off the bind address. Spire logs. If we want to send logs to a specific place, we can. But besides the defaults. Oh. Right, that's easier for you guys to read. Require your secure transport, you tend to have to turn that on for security reasons. But I don't have it on for this. For this lab, because I was just turning it on to test some things. Alright, we didn't change any of the defaults, so the defaults are all still there. So that's fine. Alright. We could right quit it and then systemctl Maria restart Maria DB server. Maria DB server. What? Yeah, it can just be MariaDB. And then status. There we go. Alright, it's running. It's doing the things that it's going to do. Alright, we see it running again. Good. Alright. Yeah, so we're not working too hard right now, but that's kind of some of the things that we were checking for and scanning the system and then looking for ways to report that out, right? And then lab tasks for this week, we're looking at shadow file suite. You've got a set of files that are part of your system. And over here, if I were to just get out of here and maybe jump back over to Werewolf and then just move back to root and SSH to like Rocky 7. Probably nobody on there. Yeah, nobody's on there. And then shadow file suite is ls-l on etc passwd, etc shadow, etc group, and then etc g shadow. And those tend to be the four. Let me think if there's any other, but those are the four that we tend to think of as what we call the shadow suite, right? Etsy Pass WD is readable by anybody in the system, and you can look at who the users are that are on the system, and you can query users and find them out of there. Etsy Shadow is unreadable by anybody except for the pluggable authentication modules, and root actually technically can't read this, but root can override it because root can override anything. So when I say more Etsy Shadow, that actually overrides the fact that nobody's supposed to be able to read that. Like, I'm not supposed to be able to read that as the root user, but root can do whatever it wants, so. Normally what happens when you pass in a password is it goes to the pluggable authentication modules, and they go validate that your password hits the hash. So they hash whatever you pass in, and they take whatever password you give, they hash it, they compare it to make sure it's the same, and then they give you access or not. So you never actually touch this file ever inside of a system with any of your applications or anything. It's always handled by the pluggable authentication modules. I always use that example. If you ever seen like a spy movie and they go and they just look over like the waiter's shoulder or the person that's seating everybody and goes, "Oh yeah, that's me right there. I'm Mr. Johnson." And you're like, well, that's stupid, because if you had just not shown them the list, they would have never been able to get in. And that's exactly what we do in the systems world. We don't show people the list, right? What's the double question marks after the username? Are you talking about the double quotes or the double? I'm not sure where the double question marks are. I see double exclamation marks. Yeah. This tends to mean that something's not set. So up here, you see, so this is root, and then this is the field for the password right here. But hold on, the first part here between this and this, and you see the $6 and then the $, I think it goes to right here actually. This is tells it the type of hash that you were using, and this is what's called the salt of the hash right here. And then this is what's actually the value. So these just mean they don't have passwords. And this probably aligns right here with what we see over here if we check them in password WD. So like RPC, if I grep RPC from Etsy Pass WD, the 7th and last field should show me no login. No login, no login, no login. So RPC, no login. All right. Making users, we can just make users, user add, and make users. We can also put users directly in the files if we want to and give them home directories. We were looking at the dot files and users home directories. So where do those come from, and how do we get them there? So if I were to be in this system and go to home, and there's nothing in home, right? But if home were populated from out here, and we had anything in the home directory, if we populate any users out here, they should actually be shown over there. So see how the home is mounted off the home? What actually happens in this cluster is we really shouldn't be adding users directly to any of the nodes. We should be adding them over here, and they'll get populated through. So if I do like, let's go back to Rocky 7, and we do like a ID of Scott. There is a user Scott, right? But then if we exit and we do an ID Scott out here, the ID Scott should be here. So if I make a user add Scott2, right? And I'm going to give it a -M just for good measure. That means to make the home directory if he's not. And then if we do an ID of Scott2, he's going to be 1002. And if we do an ls-l in home, we'll see that there's Scott2's home directory, and he's only readable, writable, and executable by Scott2. And then if we go up to Rocky right here, and we go ls-l in home, we see Scott2 because that got pushed immediately from the head node to all the different nodes. And his password is also synced because, well, if I had put a password on him, it would be in the shadow file. So if we were to grep Scott2 from Etsy Pass WD, he's there. Whoop. He should be. Oh, he's not there yet. Yeah, see how his numbers are still here. So let's watch. We'll just do this real quick. Watch LSHome, and we'll wait for this to sync. So these are gonna sync in a few minutes. Within 5 minutes, these will sync. So let's just sit and watch. See those 1002s? They should become Scott 2. That's what should happen right now. Well, whenever the client runs again, the WW client, whenever that runs again, that thing should update. And if it doesn't, then we got to go figure out why that behavior is like that. And then we might know that it's possible that users aren't updated on the fly in our system like I thought. And then, there's all kinds of other things and implications there that we might go look at, right? This is what we do as systems people, is we figure out kind of what's going on inside the system. So hold on, I'm gonna check on the wifey real quick. You doing okay?
Yeah.
Good. I'm still streaming. Yeah. Well, good. Nobody's talking to me, so I'm just kind of talking to myself up here.
Okay.
Yeah, it's okay. We're waiting for a system to update right now. That's why I have it highlighted right there. Oh, actually, no, it's still updating. Okay. It should change when it changes underneath where I have highlighted. So, yeah, we're just sitting here hanging out, not working too hard, waiting to see if anybody's got any interesting things going on. That's all we're doing, and we're reviewing stuff from like 3 weeks ago. So I'm just kind of like reviewing things all the way up. All right, so Etsy Skell directory. That's where the home directory is populated out of. It's a file system directory called Etsy Skell. King Tsubaki, you're doing your own research. Nice. Do you have your own little lab environment? Are you running stuff off of maybe Oracle VirtualBox or WSL or something, or do you have dedicated hardware? I make my own music hosting services so I can stop paying for Spotify. Oh, I remember you telling me that before. Yeah. That'd be cool. If you need any help, I don't know if you need any help with anything, but I know in our server, Michael Pessa, he wrote a whole, this was many years ago for him, but he wrote a whole thing in C++. So I don't know what you're using for it, but he's a big C++ guy. Oh, you're using dual boot. Oh, wow. Well, you'll have to move that eventually when you start wanting to run the things and be on your computer, so that'll be good. Yeah. But if you ask anybody in like the programming channel, and anything, deals with, what did he write? He wrote his own codec for like MP4 files or something, for some kind of thing, like a player and like a, I don't know, it was something he did like as a project to learn, but it was still pretty cool that he did it. So man, this user might never sync over, so if it doesn't sync, we might have to check. We might have to check if that is part of the behavior, that's either part of the runtime overlays, or if it's not part of the runtime overlays, is it part of something that gets synced from Werewolf, right? And I was sure that it was, but it's possible that it only comes up on boot. So we're gonna let that have like 3 more minutes, and if that doesn't update right here, then we'll just go ahead and boot it over and make sure that it gets the right values that we expect, right? So that's pretty fair. That's a good way to do things. Alright, I gotta fight the urge to fall asleep in my chair right now. I don't think that's going to update. But while that's running, I'm going to leave that running over there, and I'm going to check it in a second here. On this system, I'm going to clear up the screen, PWD, provision. We're going to go to overlays, and then we're going to go into generic. And then in generic, there's a root FS and an Etsy. And there's the group, the www, and the passwd. But then we have to do a system CTL, we need to do a werewolf control of nodes dash node list Rocky 7 dash A grep dash I for overlay, and its runtime overlay is generic. So generic is happening in a runtime fashion, so that's good to know. And then if I'm here and that's generic and root, let's see, then we go look at passwd, and passwd will pull in etc passwd. Yeah, so I do expect this to update over here. I do expect this to eventually show the correct ID for this user whenever this runs. But I can check this right here. I can go to SSH to Rocky 7 and say systemctl status www client w systemctl status client, and I can see that it has run. The last time it ran was at so 12:14. So I mean, this should be why? Interesting. So so let's go check this file. Grep Scott 2 from etc passwd dash. Still not there either. Another thing we can do is we can do an ls-l on etc passwd and see that it was written in the last few seconds, and then we can also do a stat again etc passwd and see that etc passwd was both modified and changed since the last minute. So if we were going to see Scott 2, we should see it already from there. So that's worrying me. Not worrying me, but it's just oh, I wonder if hold on, we're going to do something else. We're going to do www.ctl overlay build, and we're going to build all the overlays. So I wonder, this is an interesting thing, I wonder if you can change those things, but until you do a build overlay, right, if this thing's not ever going to grab it. So this will build all of them. There goes 7 getting built right there. And then we come back over here and we start doing our little watch again. And now I wonder if within the next minute that'll come back. So this will be an interesting little behavior. We test things. We think something might work a certain way, and we know that certain things are happening like that. But it's interesting that, yeah, until we repackage the build overlays, it's very possible that it's never going to take it as a runtime overlay. So that's actually really cool. Coffee time? No, I've had a few monsters today. I'm probably done for the night. I'm probably just going to drink water, and then I got to go wrestle in the morning. I took today off because it was just, I was sore. I get a little more, I feel like I get more sore in winter time, but maybe that's just my imagination. But just takes longer. It was kind of interesting yesterday morning as I was leaving the gym. We're on the second floor of a kind of nicer part of town in this facility. And you either take an elevator up. Well, you can only take the elevator up in the morning, but then at the end of the morning you can take the elevator down, or you can go down the stairwell. So I went down the stairwell, and as I opened the door to exit the stairwell, I hit a homeless dude that was sleeping there, and I'm like, oh, sorry, man. Then I just kind of like ran him over and like went over the top of him. I didn't step on him or nothing. I just went over him. But I told the wife I ran a homeless dude over, and she believed me. She thought I just ran him over with my truck. So she's not as amused about my shenanigans as I am. But no, oh, there it is. Look, guys, it updated right there. Boom. So that was it. That now we know that behavior. You can do whatever you want, but until you rebuild the overlays, it doesn't change. So that's a good behavior. So now on all the nodes, right? I haven't been on Rocky 11 in probably since we first started the lab. If I do ID for Scott 2, it's there. So once you rebuild that overlay, the runtime overlay will get picked up by everything in the cluster. So that's kind of a good behavior to know. Is another thing I'm going to have to add. I want to add that to my training. Until you build the overlay, it's not staged to the environment, and therefore the overlay doesn't change for all of your different devices. So that's a kind of valuable thing to understand. So Etsy if you go look in Etsy, this is how we populate our Etsy. This is how we populate our the directories of a user. So if I go to home, right? If we did checksum dot everything. So everything in here looks like that, right? And then I cd to home Scott 2, which just got populated, and I do a checksum of dot that. What do you want to bet that it's the same directories and it's exactly the same size? They have not changed in any way as they got pushed over here, as that user was just created, and then those files are directly the same. So you actually can make files in your Etsy Skell, and then those will be populated to all new users going forward. Not any of the users that already exist, only new users going forward as they're created. It'll create their home directory and move everything out of Etsy Skell for you. So it's kind of a nice little way to I'll sometimes move users' home directories into a .old file, so it'll be an old directory, and I move all their files in there, and then I go ahead and populate. I repopulate everything from there, and then if they can log in, if they're having problems logging in, but now they can log in, I tell them, well, now it's time to go pull what you can out of your old dot files and try to keep track of what it is that's breaking you, because otherwise we got to figure out what's keeping somebody from getting into an environment, and that can be kind of a hassle. It can be a very iterative process. So what I do is I wipe everything out of it and see if it goes back to a new clean login and everybody can get in. Once I get there, then I can say, okay, well, now we can start to pull your stuff back. And if they're like, well, are you going to help me? I'll go, no, that's all your stuff. I'm just kidding. You don't tell them that. That'll get you in trouble. And then we talk about file system permissions. So we did a lot with file system permissions. Maybe you do ls-l on home, and you see what the files in there are, and then maybe you want to do an ls-ld on home, see what's kind of going on in there. Hey, Zony11, thanks for the follow. Hopefully this stuff's useful to you. We're just kind of hanging out right now and working through some of the Linux systems administration stuff. All this stuff is up in our Discord. I'm just kind of showing it to you guys. And then if you have questions, that's how you get a hold of me, right? So that's that one. If you guys are fans of Discord, or even if you're not, you can hang out down in Discord. We've had, I think we're almost 3,200 people now, so we got a good number of people just hanging out here in the Discord. This is just from today, right? More people coming in, and some of this is yesterday. So yesterday and today we've had a pretty good extra amount of people just kind of stumbling in there. Everybody's welcome in there. You know, it's always free to hang out in Discord, so you guys can go. And then we've had a good amount of people just down here kind of studying. So people are down here working and studying together most of the time in the early mornings. I see people on here, and then on the weekends people get in the study group. So if you want to go and hang out with different engineers and people that are trying to get into systems administration like you, there's a good amount of work and stuff going on down there, so you guys can do that. All right. Oh, we got our this is up. We were actually flipping through all of these, so there's Ranger, and it's flipping through all of our different environments. That was just one of the things that we were keeping an eye on tonight. So, you know, you go to these environments and you do these different things, and then you see what's going on, and you can add users and add stuff to the system, and there's a lot of good kind of value added as a systems administrator, like understanding how to add users, how to make sure users are doing things, but they're doing them in a secure fashion. You can validate and figure that stuff out, right? So there's that, and then let's see. There is obviously our tooling. I'm using XCPNG. Hey Cerberus, how's it going? Thanks for the raid. Thanks for trusting your users to come hang out over here. We are just not working too hard. I was in my lab environment here, and you guys also see that when I have that specific not working too hard symbol over here, that's because the wife's sitting in the room with me. She's sitting behind me on her little beanbag chair. So if anybody wants to hang out, yeah, Rust, and you're taking apart malware, right? I mentioned that earlier today because somebody had said something about me doing programming, and I'm like, I don't really do a whole lot of programming. I'm more of a systems guy. I build all the stuff that people can do their cool big processing on top of. I build all the systems that, and I build stability into systems for people to run high performance compute against and stuff. In fact, I'm going to pull that up because, you know, I work with NOAA, and I think that NOAA is one of the best places for people that are like, hey, the only way, so if you were to tell me, if any of you guys were to tell me, not any one person, were to tell me, hey, Scott, the only way I could possibly get into like research science or or research. I want to be an amateur data scientist and I want to get better at it. But the only way I can do it is to go to college. I would tell you no. You could actually get involved right now. You could go drop in right here. Here's the NOAA library. There's a bunch of free tools here, but there's a bunch of free webinars coming up. Some of them have already passed. This one's coming up on November 13th, so it's in about a week. And system level thinking for ecosystem-based fisheries management. Maybe you're like, hey, I want to combine my idea of conservations as well as my strong desire to get better at data science, and I want to go work on some of these things. And there's all these projects, and you can start to go watch things. Yeah, thanks for that, Robodom. Thanks for linking that. But guys, you got a tremendous amount of stuff that you can get involved with. And I work with NOAA, but I work on the side. I work on this side over here. So NOAA, and then I can only tell you these names because they've published them. But these are systems that I built for them in the early 2000s. These went live in 2021. But I was a big part of building these for them, these cluster systems here, right? This is out in Dogwood, which is in Virginia. And then there's another one in Phoenix about 4 miles from my house. I just happen to be right next to the one in Phoenix, which I think is hilarious. So if they ever need me to go over there, I still have access to their systems and I can help them. And I built all of the Ansible that causes that thing to boot properly. So that's kind of a thing that I did. So, all right. But that's not, that's just telling you guys more of what I do. I'm a systems guy, right? And then I was talking about you guys can get involved with all these different tools. Man, there's so much tools from the government for you guys to get in and start to look at this. So if you're like, hey, conservation means something to me, and this, I don't know it means something to any of you, but I can tell you if that's one of them, because that's one that's kind of big for people, especially younger people. Like, hey, I want to have I want to have a planet in 50 years or whatever. Well, this is a good place to start because this is where the research happens. And you'd be surprised how understaffed government organizations are. They love when people are sitting there and working on this stuff with them, right? So there's a lot of opportunities for that. A lot of places for you to say, well, I'm not actually, I don't have a PhD, but I went and worked through this for years. Yeah, this is an awesome thing to go play with. And I told you guys, I'm an amateur data scientist. I do this stuff for fun. I mess with all kinds of projects and stuff for fun. But, you don't have to do it as a pro. You can just do it. And I was telling you guys earlier today when I was talking, people think that amateur means not as good as a pro. That is not true. That is just a thing that tends to be like Americans in sports. But when you go look at like what amateurs actually accomplish, amateurs win all kinds of things all the time because they're the ones who, I want to say they're driven by caring instead of driven by getting a paycheck, So I'm not saying you can't be a pro and care. I'm just saying I know 100% for sure that if you are getting, if you're not getting paid and you're doing something, you do care, which is I can't say for sure that you do care if you're just doing it for a paycheck, right? So anyways, look, all these seminars coming up. What's this one? I don't even know what this one. Increasing implementation of citizen science across NOAA. So they're trying to get, look, this is a series literally on getting other people like you involved. So if you're interested in getting involved, go register for this. 3 to 4 p.m. Eastern, so that's pretty reasonable for most of us. You can send emails to people. They have their contact information. Just say, hey, I'm a citizen and I want to get into doing science and I want to do this. I'm a computer scientist or somebody who's done some programming and I want to learn about your system. And they'll probably send you over their slides and then tell you about their process, So, all right, something to think about. There's always more stuff around here to think about. So, let's keep an eye on everything that's looping here. There's Ranger. He hasn't moved for a while, so I'm a little worried about him. But I'm always worried about him when he doesn't move for a while. But he'll be all right, I guess. What else do we have? We got more lab stuff to go through. So let's go look at Unit 6. Here's Unit 6. To pull this up over here. Yeah, we love Ranger. We love Ranger around here. So Linux Systems Administration Unit 6. Let's go look at it. We were up to, again, we got to 208 people before that thing crashed. But last week for Unit 6, the week before, we had attacked out MITRE and then looking at dot files and some of this stuff. And then on that week, we talked about fixing the firewalls on your servers and explaining firewall versus web application firewall to management. He's dreaming about it. Yeah, Ranger. So actually, when I fed him dinner tonight, I gave him He's got this soft food that he sometimes eats, and like the wife got these little pouches of soft food that you kind of open them and then you just squeeze the meat onto. So I squeeze the soft meat onto his like harder stuff that he's always eaten, because like sometimes harder food's better for dog's teeth, and he's eaten hard food his whole kind of life. So then he gets a little soft food on top of it, and I think he likes it because it's got gravy that he can lick up and all that stuff. So, you know, I think it also breaks up the monotony of what he normally eats. So that's Ranger for you. But anyways, so let's talk about the fixing the firewalls and explaining the web application firewall. And one of the things that I had started doing in some of our discussions, when we get to our discussions here, is I started to kind of be a little more like people said they really liked the kind of case study type thing. So what we did was I started doing them more and more like case studies. So Unit 6 discussion post 1, a ticket has come in from an application team. Some of the servers your team built for them last week have not been reporting up to the enterprise monitoring. Okay, that's a problem. Now we got to figure that out. And they need to be able to troubleshoot a current issue, but they have no data. So the application team is trying to troubleshoot an application problem in new servers, and there's no data going to the enterprise reporting. So you jump on the new servers and find that the engineer built everything correctly for the agents. There's a node exporter, a Ceph exporter, and a Logstash exporter. And those are the things that your team normally uses. So that's properly there. But they also adhered to a new company standard of Firewall D must be running. So they had turned Firewall D on. No one has documented the ports that need to be open. So you're stuck between the new standards of having a firewall on and fixing this problem on live systems. So now you got to go figure out what the problem is. And I said, as you're looking this up, what concepts and terms are new to you? What are the ports that you're going to need to expose? There's node exporter, Ceph exporter, and Logstash exporter. Those all have very specific ports that are well defined. And I said, what ports are you going to need to expose through your firewall? And then I said, what are you going to do to fix your firewall? Is the answer to just do it or, willy-nilly? Or is the answer to go wait until you go to a engineering change board or a change advisory board and then do that work, right? There's different ways to do it, and it depends on the security posture of your organization. It depends on the maturity of your change management process. There's all these things to think about, right? So that we can go in there and look at what some of the people said. People had really good answers in here, and they talked about how they fix it and all that kind of stuff. So then you can go look at the thread, and if you want to contribute, you can add some pieces to it. And if you want to comment that somebody else had a really good answer, you can do that, and then let us know why they had a good answer. And so typically you do one post and then one response to somebody, okay? And you can add them. You can do an @ symbol to them. They don't care. Unit 6 discussion post 2. So this is kind of stretching into that. This also teaches you a very important sysadmin concept of when you learn how to do something or you figure something out, everybody just starts giving you all their problems. I've told you guys this before, and you might think I'm kidding, but because I'm tagged as somebody who fixes things, it does not matter what the problem is in my company. It could be Active Directory. It could be a pay issue. I've never been called in on a pay issue, but I'm saying I guarantee you my management will call me in because they're like, Scott fixes things. Scott knows how to read the field manuals on stuff and go and figure stuff out, right? RTFM, read the field manual. That's not what F stands for, guys. All right, anyways. So here, a manager heard that you're the one who saved the new application by fixing the firewall. So, your rumors have spread. Your lore has gotten bigger. They get your manager to approach you with a request to review some documentation from a vendor that is pushing them hard to run a web application firewall in front of their web application. So, different set of servers, different situation, but the vendor is asking them, strongly recommending that they run a web application firewall. So they say you are the firewall guy now, right? You got branded as the expert. So now they're asking you to give them a review of the differences between firewalls that you set up. So what is the difference between a host, a host firewall like you just built, which is operating up to layer 4 of the OSI model, and a web application firewall? Look, they think that your type of firewall should be enough. How's that different than a web application firewall, which is operating all the way through layer 7? And what are some of the concepts around that? You may focus heavily on the web application firewall can be used for certificate completion. So you can have a certificate, what we call certificate termination, and end users can connect to your web application firewall, authenticate, and then that can send transport layer security back to you. and that offloads a lot of the heavy-duty processing that's needed for the asymmetric manner of X509 certificates, right? So this is the type of thing that you could go work on and fix. But anyways, the point is, what do you know about the differences? Do you know any of the differences? Do you have to go read them all? I said, what are you going to do to figure out more? Probably going to go look at some blogs and read some stuff from engineers that have worked with that. And then I say, prepare a little report for them comparing the firewalls that you did in the first documentation. So compare this type of firewall to this type of firewall, and tell me if they need it or not. Tell me if you think they're going to need to do this. And then we come over here. You can again go look at questions from people and answers. So different people had some different things that they talked about, and you could figure out if any of this is interesting to you or if you would want to continue on with it, if that makes sense. All right. So that's that part. And then topics of discussions, we talked about firewalls. What types of firewalls are there? There are layer 3 and layer 4 firewalls, which tend to be called like network firewalls, and those tend to deal with stateful and stateless packet filtering in the system. Stateful packet inspection SPI firewalls tend to be ones that can remember traffic going out from a trusted interface and then reflexively allow traffic to come back in from an untrusted interface, right? These are kind of things that you can learn about them. I said, when would you use one of them? When would you use all? You'd probably use the network firewalls everywhere to protect all traffic. But then after you allow something through the network firewall, you can still have in front of your web applications, you can still have other types of firewalls that either terminate certificates or ensure that there are well-formed header requests or ensure that so many embryonic connections are not attempted to be made from a system. Embryonic connections are half-open TCP handshakes, right? And we try to protect our system from getting too many of those because it starts with that SYN-ACK attack that used to be so popular. And that's SYN space ACK. That's better. ACK. All right. Guys, I don't have much more in me because I've been talking a lot today, but come down here. We talked about no-hop environments and running your screen sessions or whatever you want. What does it mean to no-hop a process? That means that it doesn't die if it is the child of a process that you're using as the shell. Because normally if you leave a shell, it kills all the processes underneath it. But if you no-hop the process, it stays alive even after you leave. And I kind of showed that week. There's a recording for all this if you want to go see it. I said, how do we use that and how does that relate to jump boxes? Well, some of you guys know that I can jump into this jump box from anywhere on planet Earth. I was in Hawaii last week. I was jumping back into this jump box and doing stuff in my home lab the entire time, right? I can control everything from here. And as long as I don't kick this machine over or any of this machine specifically right here, which is my P01 Jump 01, as long as I don't kick this over, I can get to my systems from anywhere. Yeah, I can launch and do anything I want from anywhere in the world. And when I disconnect, it's as simple as just going into a new version of my PuTTY. So I just go into a new PuTTY just like this. I just go right here to P01 Jump 01. I also have my remote home right there, and I load it up. I open it up. It's going to jump over here. I say my user. I go in with my password. Right, long password. I do a screen-R to screen-L. Oh, damn it. I go screen-LS to see my screens, and I see that this one, which is my streaming one, is 73648. So then I do a screen-R to reconnect to it since it's attached, and then I can immediately connect into the exact same home environment that I was just in, right? As though nothing had happened. I can even jump into my other environments that were no-hopped in here. So you can see all the same things that we were looking at earlier, right there. All right. What are some tools that we can use to run our shells no-hop? There's Screen. Screen's a big one. Tmux is a big one. A lot of people really like Tmux. I don't care how you do it, but as long as you know how to do it, it's important. It's important to be able to control and just leave a shell at any time and come back into it and still have working servers, working systems and connections. All right. So then lab tasks this week, we're setting up screen, doing firewall configurations, checking zones, applying zones to interfaces, and then writing a new service definition in XML for Firewall D. So if you've never done that, that's all part of the lab. Now, if you say, Scott, where do you get the lab? When you're on this projects channel, projects right here, whenever I put like Unit 6 here, here's all the stuff for the lab. Here's the worksheet, here's the Firewall D doc, and then here's the worksheet in just a basic form if you need it in you just want text. You don't want to deal with docx or any of those things. You could just do text if you want. And this will give you enough to at least get started. So, all right. Guys, I'm probably going to hop off of here. Let's see. Let's finish this up. Yeah, so then there's questions. All right. So we did all the way up through 6. So we'll probably get 7 and 8 done tomorrow sometime. Let's see. How's this going? Is this moving along? So things are moving along here, right? Different results are coming in. So you can keep an eye on that if you want to. And see how that goes, if that's going the way you want or not. You can keep an eye on that. And for most of you guys, I will be probably back on tomorrow. I'm going to be doing some real stuff. There's Ranger down there. Man, I haven't even seen him blink, so that's kind of worrying. But, man, that dog. All right, guys. So I'm going to go find somebody to raid over to. And it's just an hour, just a short little one. But we will hop back on and do more stuff tomorrow sometime. So let's go find somebody to raid over here. Who's on? Who are we following that's on right now? There's Kai's on, Sid Heresy. We can re-raid Sid if we wanted to, or we can hit up Wallaber. We can let's raid over to, let's hit up Sid again. If you guys haven't been over there, we'll go raid him. He does soldering. He's doing some electronic stuff, so we'll go hit him up. For some of you guys, I guess I'll see you tomorrow. And for the rest of you, I will see you guys whenever you head back. I will, and then make sure you're getting in there and doing your lab work if you're doing the Linux Systems Administration course with us. All right, I'll talk to you guys later. Take care.